Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. For some reason subtitles are unavailable. Maybe there is YouTube glitch. Today is explanation of Battle Through the Heavens episode number 168 based on novel. So let's start. A beautiful figure shot to the top of the green mountain with lightning speed. Within a couple of flashes, she had appeared in front of Xiao Yang. Her pretty eyes were filled with worry. Xiao Yang, GG, are you alright? Earlier. Xiao Yang grinned and shook his head. He studied Sun Er's tense face and said, that person earlier was your father, clan head Jiu Yuan. I knew it. Sun Er knit her brows. Her tone faintly contained some fury. It was unexpected that even her father could not resist revealing himself after those fellows had unveiled their faces one after another. Ha ha, clan head Jiu Yuan did not say anything to stop the two of us. He only discussed some matters related to the Xiao clan. Xiao Yang smiled and defended Jiu Yuan. Is it true? He didn't talk about the matter between us. Sun Er was slightly startled. Clearly, she felt very surprised. Xiao Yang rubbed his nose. He suddenly approached Sun Er's delicate ear and softly uttered a couple of sentences. Sun Er's elegant face immediately turned bright red when she heard his soft voice. Her pretty eyes cut Xiao Yang in a lovely and displeased manner. However, her expression had relaxed a little. Jiu Yuan possessed an extremely high position within the Jiu clan. If even he opposed their relationship, she would really end up in a dilemma. She was very unwilling to deal with that kind of situation. Let's return first. Xiao Yang, GGE, you already possess one of the spots to enter the heavenly tomb. All you need to do is wait for 2 days now and we will be able to enter it together. Sun Er gently pulled Xiao Yang's hand as she informed him with a smile. Joy flashed across Xiao Yang's eyes when he heard her words. He was worried that the elders within the Jiu clan would come up with reasons to prevent him from entering the heavenly tomb. After hearing what Sun Er had said, it was obvious that this problem had been resolved. Thank you very much, Sun Er. Xiao Yang's hand gently rubbed her warm jade-like hand as he softly thanked her. He guessed that Sun Er had helped him again. His act of hurrying to the Jiu clan today was related to this. Sun Er hinted at a smile. She twisted her delicate and gentle waist. Her face contained a bright redness as she gently leaned on Xiao Yang's shoulder. She shut her pretty eyes as she greedily inhaled the warm air that caused her to feel relaxed. A warmth rose within Xiao Yang's heart as studied the person in his embrace. His hand gently rested on a delicate waist. At the same time, his head was buried in soft black hair. Upon inhaling a faint fragrance, it appeared as though his fatigue had gradually disappeared. Jiu Yuan's body slowly appeared in the empty sky above. He observed the man and woman embracing each other on the mountain top and involuntarily sighed. After which, his body moved, and he once again disappeared. Xiao Xian, you are still the superior one. All agony seemed to have been abandoned within this pleasant country scene. 2 days swiftly passed amid this quiet life. No one from the Jiu clan came to disturb Xiao Yang's group during these 2 days. This kind of peace and quiet was wonderful. However, this silence could not last for long. When the morning light of the 3rd day scattered down from the sky, an unusual atmosphere began to spread over the mountain range. Even Xiao Yang's group felt it. Today is the day that the heavenly tomb will open. Sun Er stood in front of the bamboo house and uttered these words to Xiao Yang. Xiao Yang grinned. Sun Er beckoned with her hand, and the snow-white single-horned beast flew out of the mountain forest. Xiao Yang's group quickly got onto it with a familiarity. Finally, the single-horned beast flapped both its wings and flew to the east after Sun Er gave a soft whistle. The heavenly tomb will open deep within the Jiu sacred mountain range. That place are a forbidden grounds of the Jiu clan. No one is allowed to enter them normally. It will only open when the heavenly tomb is opened. A gentle breeze blew over the single-horned beast's back and lifted Sun Er's black hair, which extended all the way to her delicate waist. At the same time, she was explaining things to Xiao Yang's group. There is some danger within the heavenly tomb. A countless number of experts from ancient times are buried within it. Although their souls have already disappeared, the energy from when they were alive have transformed into their past appearances due to the mysteriousness of the heavenly tomb. This energy is filled with an extremely powerful offensive strength. Moreover, they also know their Do skills from when they were alive. It will be extremely difficult to deal with them. Sun Er's expression became a little grave when she mentioned the interior of the heavenly tomb. She said, therefore, if one ends up meeting an overly powerful energy body, it is best to try and avoid it. It is rumored that some experts with extremely great strength when they were alive have produced energy bodies with some intelligence. They could even be considered a mysterious living creature. A living creature that has been transformed from the dead, her. Xiao Yang thought aloud. The overly great strength from when these people were alive and the mysterious effects of the heavenly tomb were the reasons why such a strange occurrence happens. The heavenly tomb is divided into 3 levels. The energy bodies on the first level are mostly 3-star dozuns or weaker. They drift around without any consciousness and are not very difficult to deal with. The second level's energy bodies are between a 3 and 8-star dozun. They are quite troublesome to deal with. As for the third level, those are genuinely at the peak of the dozun class. There are even some ultimate experts who have reached the doshin class when they were alive. Normally speaking, seldom anyone barges into the third level without absolute confidence. That place is too dangerous. Zuna slowly explained. The tomb of my ancestor, Xiao Xian, is in the third level? Xiao Yang asked. It is rumored that it is in the deepest part of the third level. However, seldom anyone dares to enter that place even from our Jiyu clan, Zuna helplessly replied. It is actually so troublesome. There will definitely be a path when we get there. Let's enter the heavenly tomb before discussing our plans. Xiao Yang felt much calmer after this thought flashed across his heart. After which, he asked Zun about information related to the heavenly tomb. The single-horned beast gradually traveled deep into the mountain range while the two of them were chatting. Xiao Yang's group had met some people who were hurrying to this place along the way. They were mostly experts from the other 6 clans and some Jiyu clan experts. Although they had met them, there were not many conversations. Only the clan members from the Jiyu clan respectfully greeted Zun from a distance before they swiftly left. The flying continued for around 10 minutes before the single-horned beast finally stopped by some steep mountains. At this moment, quite a number of figures had gathered here. Xiao Yang's eyes swept over, only to see quite a number of familiar figures. Xiao Yang's eyes suddenly hardened as they swept across the surrounding mountains. 3 black-robed figures were suspended in the empty air where his gaze froze. A dark and cold aura slowly spread from the bodies of these 3. Hunye. Xiao Yang's eyes narrowed when he saw these 3 people. The fist under his sleeve was slowly tightened. Xiao Yang Jiji, be careful of the person leading those from the Hun clan. He is called Hunye. It is rumored that he is quite renowned among the members of the younger generation from the Hun clan, and he is extremely difficult to deal with. He is likely going to be entering the heavenly tomb. You should be more careful if you meet him in the heavenly tomb. Zun whispered beside Xiao Yang's ear. I have already met him. Xiao Yang nodded. He was naturally aware of just how strong Hunye was. From his guess, this person was likely as difficult to deal with as Jiyu Yaro. Those geniuses within the clans with long history did indeed possess true strength. They were not the same level as those useless geniuses outside. The members from the Ling clan from the 8 clans did not arrive this time around. That group to the southeast is from the Yarrow clan. Oh! A thought passed through Xiao Yang's heart. He glanced where Zun pointed and saw a couple of figures suspended in the air. There was a medicinal cauldron image on their foreheads. A man, who was leading those from the Yarrow clan, sensed something when Xiao Yang's eyes landed on this group. He tilted his head and shifted his eyes to Xiao Yang. He was briefly startled before an unfriendly smile was lifted onto his face. Xiao Yang narrowed his eyes when he saw this gaze. It seemed that the people from the Yarrow clan were prejudiced against him. The eastern side are those from the Lei clan. Old Mr. Mang Tian Kai is leading them this trip. However, he will not enter the heavenly tomb. Most of the time, the ones who enter are members of the younger generation. After all, the heavenly tomb is not a bad training ground. Xiao Yang once again shifted his eyes. He looked to a group of people with a lightning mark on their foreheads and nodded. You have already met those from the Yang clan. On the western side are those from the Shi clan. Due to their bloodline, their physical bodies are all extremely frightening. They could be comparable to some of the top magical beasts within the magical beast world. Xiao Yang turned to the west. A group of greyish-white individuals stood there. An enormous rock was tattooed on their foreheads. These are all the people who will enter the heavenly tomb this time around. Other than the Jiyu clan, which looks after the heavenly tomb, the other clans only possess 2 spots each. Zun smiled as she spoke. Xiao Yang slowly nodded. He was just about to speak when he suddenly sensed this entire place trembling. A vast ancient aura slowly spread from empty space. Everyone present felt respect and fear surging from deep within their souls when faced with this ancient aura. The heavenly tomb is about to open. Zun softly said as she watched the sky suddenly become dark. Bang! Zun's words had just sounded when a shockingly loud noise was emitted from empty space, and a 10,000-foot large spatial crack spread across the sky. A cluster of silver light gradually surfaced in the middle of this spatial line. Finally, the line transformed into a 1,000-foot large spatial door with a vast ancient aura spreading from it. This is the heavenly tomb, huh? Xiao Yang muttered to himself as he studied the ancient door standing between the sky and earth. The ancient spatial door stood between the sky and the earth. An ancient aura spread from it, causing everyone's soul to quiver. Everyone should be aware of the rules regarding entering the heavenly tomb. Every clan has 2 places. There cannot be an excess number of people entering. Elder Tong Xian's elderly figure was suspended in the sky. His eyes looked down at the surrounding human figures as he spoke. Everyone slightly nodded upon hearing his words. The rules of entering the heavenly tomb has always been like this. Each clan has 2 places. This has continued even now. However, only the Jiyu clan, being the clan that guarded the heavenly tomb, received preferential treatment. For example, there were 5 from the Jiyu clan who could enter the heavenly tomb this time around. This kind of preferential treatment made the other clans a little jealous. Xiaoyang GGE, we will be randomly separated if we enter separately. Therefore we must enter together. Zuna turned her head and smiled as she spoke to Xiaoyang. Aye. Xiaoyang nodded. He was extremely unfamiliar with the heavenly tomb. If he had Zuna with him, he would be saved from many unnecessary troubles. Rumble. The ancient door that was within the spatial crack in the sky suddenly unleashed a loud rumbling sound while Xiaoyang nodded. That large door slowly opened, forming a gap. A glaring light erupted from it and lit up the land. If people have been properly assigned, please prepare to enter the heavenly tomb. Remember, all of you can only remain in the heavenly tomb for 3 years. After 3 years, the heavenly tomb will automatically expel you. Elder Tong Xian once again spoke in a deep voice as he watched the ancient door slowly open. 3 years, around half a year in the outside world, Xiaoyang mused. This was quite a good opportunity. The heavenly tomb was an extremely useful training spot since the flow of time within it was strange. If Xiaoyang were to train for 3 years within it, his strength would definitely increase. Bang! The gap of the ancient door in the sky grew wider. It was 100 feet in size. A dense aura from ancient times rolled out like a fog. A couple sounds of rushing wind suddenly appeared from within the mountain forest after the ancient door opened. 4 figures rushed toward the sky with lightning-like speed and entered the door that had just opened in front of many eyes. The members of the Jiyu clan. Jiyu Zhen has also entered. Xiaoyang was slightly surprised when he saw the 4 figures. The figure leading them was that strong green-clothed man, whom Xiaoyang had sensed back then. Behind that man was a silver-robed man and a man with a burly appearance. Of course, the person who caused Xiaoyang to be the most surprised was the last figure, Jiyu Zhen. Jiyu Yarrow did not choose to enter the heavenly tomb this time around. It seems he undertook a retreat. Therefore, the elders got Jiyu Zhen to replace him. Zuna softly explained. It seems that this failure has been a big blow to him. If he is unable to accept this kind of failure, he will stop at this level. Xiaoyang indifferently shook his head. When he fought with others, he would not become dispirited if he lost. The stronger the opponent, the greater his desire to win. With the state of mind of someone like Jiyu Yarrow, it would be extremely difficult if he truly wished to break through to the Dozun class to become a Dosheng. Compared with Jiyu Zhen, Xiaoyang felt that Jiyu Zhen's achievement would be even greater. Jiyu Zhen's talent might not be as great as Jiyu Yarrow, but his character was the most calm and indifferent among all the members of the younger generation whom Xiaoyang met during these years. This kind of character, which is as firm as a mountain, has bestowed him with an exceptionally indomitable ability to survive. Zuna nodded. She smiled sweetly and asked, "Shall we also get moving?" Xiaoyang inclined his head. After which, he turned his head and looked at the little fairy doctor behind him. He smiled as he said, "The time that I will spend in the heavenly tomb will likely be quite long. You can return to the Falling Star Pavilion first should anything happen. Be careful." The little fairy doctor nodded. Her voice was warm and gentle. Xiaoyang smiled. After which, he exchanged glances with Zun Er. Their bodies moved, and they transformed into 2 light figures that swiftly bolted toward the large ancient door. They subsequently disappeared within the intense light from the large door. The members from the remaining clans began to move one after another after the duo disappeared. They turned into numerous rays of light that flew into the large door. After the final figure entered the large door, an intense ripple suddenly appeared, and the door slowly became illusory in front of everyone's eyes until it disappeared. The foggy place occasionally had some strange fire glows flashing in the distance. They would flash and disappear. A death-like silence covered this foreign land. The space within the silent land suddenly became distorted. Immediately, 2 figures, holding hands, slowly stepped out of the space and appeared. The do-chi within their bodies circulated as their eyes cautiously observed their surroundings. "This is the heavenly tomb." Xiaoyang sighed in relief after failing to detect an unexpected situation. He curiously observed his surroundings as he asked, "Aye." Zuna smiled and nodded. The others had been transported to other places. This heavenly tomb was extremely vast. It was difficult to say whether or not they would run into others. There is an extremely rich energy. It is even stronger than the Jiyu realm's energy. Xiaoyang grabbed the foggy air in front of him. He was surprised to discover that the natural energy contained within the air was extremely dense, and its purity greatly exceeded his expectations. Zuna sweetly smiled. She tilted her head, looked at Xiaoyang, and asked, "Which level does Xiaoyang Gigi wish to head to?" If it is possible, I wish to head to Ancestor Xiao Xian's tomb on the 3rd level of the Heavenly Tomb. However, that place is too dangerous. We are in no hurry now. After all, we have 3 years. Xiao Yang mused for a moment before replying. Zun did not appear surprised by Xiao Yang's reply. She was aware of his character. Having come here, it was only natural that he would not give up on Xiao Xian's tomb. Let's get moving. The Heavenly Tomb is extremely large. We should hurry to the 2nd level first. Based on my estimations, it will take around 4 months or so. Due to the energy pressure within this Heavenly Tomb, we are unable to fly for long. Therefore, we must spend most of the time walking. Zuna spoke with a smile. Her pretty eyes landed on Xiao Yang as she said, when we reach the entrance of the 2nd level, Xiao Yang Ji might reach the peak of a 5-star Dozun. Of course, if you are lucky, it is not impossible to even reach the 6th star. Oh, so quick. Xiao Yang was startled. Zuna softly laughed. She turned her head, and her pretty eyes looked at the foggy air to her right. Her hand was slowly lifted before she suddenly clenched it. Energy swiftly agglomerated when Zuna clenched her hand. In the blink of an eye, the fog there completely scattered. An illusory body vaguely appeared in Xiao Yang's sight. This is energy body. Xiao Yang was startled when he saw this illusory figure. He had not detected the approach of this thing. They can rely on the energy fog to hide themselves. They will quietly approach us and then launch an attack. Zuna smiled and nodded. She flicked her finger and the illusory figure suddenly became distorted. A puff sounded and the figure exploded. A thumb-sized cluster of light swiftly rushed to Zuna before she grabbed it. This is an energy core. It stores extremely pure energy, and it is the extremely nourishing thing that I had mentioned. Zuna opened her hand and a rhombus-shaped thumb-sized crystal appeared in her palm. It glowed with an extremely rich energy fog. Normally speaking, the energy cores within the Heavenly Tomb are divided into 9 grades. The energy contained within the core in my hand has only reached the 2nd grade. It isn't considered very good. Those high-grade energy cores are all in the deepest parts of the 1st level or the lower levels. Well, Xiao Yang Gigi, why don't you give it a try first? Hold it in your palm and use your chi method to absorb it. Zuna flicked her finger as she spoke. She shot the energy core toward Xiao Yang. Xiao Yang received the energy core and curiously played with it. After which, he did what Zuna had said. He grabbed the energy core in his hand and circulated his chi method. Following the circulation of the flame mantra, Xiao Yang suddenly felt a chill within his heart. He was stunned to sense wave after wave of warm pure energy surging out of the energy core like floodwater. After which, the energy surged around Xiao Yang's body. He rejoiced because he barely needed to refine this energy. All he needed to do was circulate it within his veins, and the energy was deposited in his limbs and bones. Finally, it entered his muscles, bones, and cells. The way it seeped in caused Xiao Yang sense the gradually strengthening energy within his body. What a mysterious thing. It is even smoother to absorb it than ordinary medicinal pills. No wonder even the Jiyu clan, Hun clan, and these ultimate factions hold it in such high regards. It is such a mysterious treasure ground. Xiao Yang opened his hand after the final cluster of energy entered his body, and the energy core had turned into dust. An expression of surprise had surged onto his face. If it was not difficult to obtain such an energy core, it would not be impossible for him to advance to a 6-star Dozun within 4 months. Zuna smiled when she saw the shock on Xiao Yang's face. She placed her hands behind her, and her toes were pressed on the ground. Her lovely body appeared just like a butterfly as she elegantly drifted forward. A sweet clear laughter softly spread. Xiao Yang Gigi, let's go. Why don't we play a game? Who will be able to obtain more energy cores during these 3 years? Xiao Yang smiled, strode forward, and swiftly followed. He was very curious just how strong he would grow during these 3 years. Fluorescent lights drifted above the foggy land. At a glance, it appeared like the entire world was covered in a deadly silence. There was not even the slightest life force present. This dead silence remained for an unknown period of time. Suddenly, the low and deep sound of rushing wind appeared. A low cry was mixed within it. The sound followed the fog and penetrated through it. If one's eyes were to follow the direction where the sound originated, one would be able to see 2 blurry figures. Only upon closer inspection one would discover 10 illusory figures around the 2 people. These figures had empty eye sockets floating around. Despite the absence of eyes, the speed and strength of these energy figures was not weakened even a little. A majestic energy surged when they attacked. Some of the large rocks on the ground were shattered. Attack. Xiao Yang involuntarily laughed as he watched the energy bodies surrounding him. After which, he let out a loud cry. Xiao Yang's figure rushed away almost instantly after his loud cry sounded. At the same time, a lovely figure also flashed and appeared from another spot beside Xiao Yang. A golden light was unleashed from her hand, and it smashed into the many energy bodies with lightning-like speed. A deep explosion spread over the area. Even the dense fog had become much thinner. This kind of explosion continued for a moment before it swiftly came to a stop. Two figures once again appeared together. They exchanged looks and laughed. 5 pieces. Xiao Yang opened his palm. 5 thumb-sized energy cores appeared in it. They emitted a dense energy. 6 pieces. Zuna also extended her white jade-like hand. 6 similar energy cores appeared in her palm. Zuna covered her mouth and softly laughed when she saw the difference. She said in a lovely voice, "Xiao Yang GGE, I have won again this time around." Xiao Yang helplessly shook his head. Although the strength of these energy bodies was at the 2-star Do Zun class, dealing with 5 of them at the same time was already his limit. If there were any more of them, he would have to use a Do skill. If they continued to compete like this, he was unable to match Zun. Absorb the energy cores first. I will stand guard. Zun placed all of the energy cores in Xiao Yang's hand as she ordered him. Xiao Yang took the energy cores into his hand without rejecting her. He was aware that he was extremely pressed to raise his strength. Hence, he did not utter any pointless rejections. He received the energy cores and swiftly sat down. His chi method was circulated and wave after wave of rich energy surged from the energy core. It appeared like a thick fog that wrapped around Xiao Yang and poured into his body like an air dragon, following his breathing. Zuna smiled when she saw Xiao Yang absorb the energy. She gently sat beside Xiao Yang, and her hand parted the black hair in front of her forehead. It had been nearly 2 months since they had entered the heavenly tomb. During these 2 months, the two of them had continued to walk through this vast land. Any energy bodies that they meet along the way would be turned into energy cores and would appear in their hands. Hence, the gains that they had obtained during these 2 months were quite rich, but they felt somewhat regretful since the energy bodies were not very strong. The energy cores that they had obtained only appeared to be of the 2nd grade or 3rd grade. These energy cores were still a little useful. When Xiao Yang absorbed more and more energy cores, their effects seemed to become a little poorer. Only now did he understand that if one absorbed too much of this energy, one's body would form a resistance to it. However, this resistance was much weaker than what was formed against a medicinal pill. This quiet world was extremely beneficial to train in. However, one would have to endure a dullness that was many times greater than the outside world. Fortunately, Xiao Yang and Zun were accompanying each other, so the days might appear dull, but there was an additional liveliness. Xiao Yang's absorption of the energy core did not last for long before his eyes slowly opened. He inhaled a deep breath of air, and the energy lingering around him turned into a cluster of air that was swallowed into his stomach. How is it? Zun stretched her lazy waist after watching Xiao Yang complete the absorption. Her pretty curves were completely exposed, and her tone contained a tempting laziness. There has been an improvement. However, I am still a ways from the 6-star level. It seems that we must find some higher grade energy cores. Xiao Yang frowned as he spoke. Ha, we are already approaching the middle section of the 1st level. The energy bodies from here on will gradually become stronger. If we are lucky, we might even be able to meet an energy body with the strength of a 6-star Dozun or higher. The energy cores within their bodies are most suitable to you. Zun sweetly smiled as she explained the situation. Her enchanting smile caused the irritation that had appeared within Xiao Yang's body to quietly disappear. How far is it to the 2nd level? It should take another month or so. The heavenly tomb has 3 levels. The 1st level is the most spacious. The subsequent 2 levels are a little better. However, the danger will also increase. Zun replied. There is still another month, Xiao Yang mused. He nodded and stood up. He looked to the horizon and smiled as he said, in that case, let's continue to travel. I wonder what those other fellows are like now. Those who can enter the heavenly tomb are all very strong individuals within the clan. They also understand the heavenly tomb quite well. Unless they end up provoking an extremely powerful existence, nothing should happen to them. Moreover, an existence that has reached that level will rarely be found on the 1st level. Let's go. Xiao Yang nodded. After which, he waved his large hand, took a step forward, and quickly headed in the direction of the deepest part of the heavenly tomb. Zun smiled and followed close behind him. Although this world was dull, any dull place would become extremely warm when she could be with him. The vast heavenly tomb was filled with a dense energy fog. Under this energy pressure, anything that flew would feel their bodies grow as heavy as a mountain. One would feel extremely exhausted after flying for a short period of time. Thus, the heavenly tomb appeared endless. The world in the heavenly tomb was dead quiet and uninteresting. However, no mediocre person could enter this mysterious place. The people who could enter stood out from the many geniuses within their clans. Not only did they possess powerful strengths, even their characters were quite calm. Although this dullness was a little abominable to them, it was still within their ability to endure. Under this kind of dullness, it appeared that the concept of time had become much weaker. Hence, Xiaoyang and Zun Er could not help but feel a little stunned when they saw an energy wall on the edge of their sights after they had spent 4 months crossing the vast heavenly tomb. Is this the entrance to the second level? Xiaoyang asked in a slightly surprised voice after seeing the energy light wall, which seemed to pour down from the edge of the sky. A travel-worn feeling spread from Xiaoyang. His black hair had become a little longer, and his face seemed to have become a little thinner. However, his dark black eyes contained a glint of flickering light. Ever since Xiaoyang and Zun Er had entered the deepest parts of the first level, they have had to face the attacks of some powerful energy bodies. Xiaoyang was the one who had dealt with most of these attacks because Xiaoyang could only stop Zun Er from intervening after seeing her destroy a 6-star Dozun energy body in a swift and simple manner. The first level did not pose much of a threat to her, and it would not have much of an effect on her training. However, it was different for Xiaoyang. He was only a 5-star Dozun. If he did not use any Do skills, he would obtain benefits from exchanging blows with those 6-star Dozun energy bodies. Of course, this was temporary. After the number of times they fought increased, Xiaoyang had become familiar with these energy bodies. Hence, the time of the fight had been reduced from a dozen-plus exchanges to less than 10 exchanges. Some of the weaker 6-star energy bodies were dealt with by Xiaoyang within 3 exchanges. Xiaoyang GGE, you are currently at the peak of the 5th star and will break through to the 6-star level soon. I suggest you break through before entering the second level. Otherwise, the Do Qi within your body will not be stable if it is full. Moreover, the second level is more dangerous than the first. One cannot guarantee that nothing will happen if one advances one's level there. Zun Er looked at the enormous energy light curtain in the distance before turning her head. She smiled as she gave Xiaoyang a suggestion. Xiaoyang hesitated for a moment after hearing her words. Finally, he nodded. After having trained for 4 months within the heavenly tomb and having swallowed thousands of energy cores, the Do Qi within his body was at a full state. He would be able to break through to the 6th star at any moment. However, one's aura would end up unstable when advancing one's level, and it would not be suitable to stay in such a place. The advancement between levels in the Dozun class requires too much energy. The energy that I have absorbed during these 4 months is something that I would not have been able to obtain in the outside world even after an entire year. This energy has barely reached the requirement to break through. I wonder just what kind of frightening energy one requires to break through the 6th star to the 7th star. Xiaoyang softly sighed in his heart. He swiftly focused his mind, turned his head to Zun Er, and said, in that case, I will have to ask you to guard me again. Zun Er smiled and nodded. Xiaoyang swept his eyes around him when he saw her nod. His body leaped onto a large rock. After which, he swiftly sat down. He entered his training condition and a cluster Do Qi began to gradually spread from his body. It covered the area within a 100-meter radius. After Xiaoyang shut his eyes and attempted to break through, Zun Er's toes pressed against the ground. Her body drifted onto a large rock. Her eyes were shut and the activity within a 1,000-foot radius was captured within her heart. Following the silence of these two, the land once again became completely quiet. After this dead silence continued for around 2 hours, a dark and cold wind suddenly rushed over. Zun Er on the large rock suddenly opened her eyes when this dark and cold wind appeared. Her face was ice-cold as she looked to the sky in the north. She spoke in an indifferent voice, since you are here, why do you need to continue hiding? Have the current members of the Hun clan become this terrible? Ha ha, you are worthy of being in possession of the divine bloodline of the Jiyu clan. Such perception is indeed praiseworthy. The space in the distance fluctuated after Zun Er's cold voice sounded. Immediately, 2 black-robed figures slowly stepped in the air and arrived. A dark and dense aura slowly spread from them. 2 figures covered in black robes stepped through empty space. After which, they slowly landed a short distance from Zun Er. The leader raised his head, revealing a young pale white face. It was Hun Ya from the Hun clan. Hun Ya, you are really bold. Zun Er's eyes were icy-cold as she stared at Hun Ya and slowly yelled at him. Ha ha, what is there to be afraid of? Your status does not pose the slightest deterrence to me. Actually, I really wish to know just what kind of uproar would occur within the Jiyu clan if you, a clan member with the divine bloodline, meet with an accident. Hun Ya laughed. His voice was filled with a dark chill. With your skill. A golden flame slowly danced within Zun Er's voice as she calmly inquired. I know that it would be difficult to deal with you. Therefore, my target this time around is not you but him. Hun Ya smiled. His finger suddenly pointed towards Xiaoyang, who was breaking through with his eyes shut. He laughed in a cold voice. Actually 1 month ago, I sensed the both of you through my spiritual eye. However, I did not find a good opportunity to attack. Fortunately, such an opportunity has finally arrived. Zun Er coldly laughed. You can come and try, as you wish. Hun Ya smiled. A cold arc was lifted onto his pale face. Hun Li, attack together and kill her. Understood. The black-robed person beside Hun Ya nodded when he heard this command. He pulled off the doping on his head, revealing a scar-filled face. A pair of indifferent and emotionless eyes stared at Sun Er a short distance away. There was not the slightest ripple in them because of Sun Er's extremely beautiful appearance. It is likely that Miss Sun Er has heard of Hun Li, right? Haha, quite a number of experts from the Jiyu clan have died to his hands during the hidden fights between the Jiyu clan and the Hun clan during these years. Of course, those injuries on his body were bestowed by those people. Hun Ye smiled as he looked at Sun Er and said, I am aware that your strength is extremely great. However, I wish to see whether you can block 2 8-star Dozuns when they are attacking together. Sun Er's face was without a ripple, appearing like an old well. She did not show the slightest unusual emotion because of Hun Ye's words. She slowly stood up from the large rock. A golden flame lingered in her eyes. Bang! That man called Hun Li stomped his foot on the ground the moment Sun Er's eyes filled with the golden flame. His body appeared in front of Sun Er with lightning-like speed. His fist, which contained a dense cold aura, smashed toward Sun Er's neck without any fancy moves. Sun Er's eyes became cold when Hun Li attacked. Her hand penetrated empty space with lightning-like speed, and she slammed into the fist just as it had been thrown forward. Bang! The fist and palm collided. A frightening wind caused the large rocks under their feet to explode with a bang. Hun Li's body staggered 2 steps back. Although he was at a disadvantage, Hun Li was not furious. An abnormal smile appeared on his face. His body flashed, and he once again pounced forward in a crazy fashion. Frightening wind shook the entire area until it rapidly began to distort. Faced with Hun Li's ferocious attack, Sun Er's legs suddenly displayed a mysterious footwork. She easily dodged those sharp palm winds. Each time her weak hand struck Hun Li's body, he would violently tremble. Hun Li appeared to be attacking in the battleground. However, his rhythm was clearly being controlled by Sun Er. It was like a furious bull on a rampage was attempting to strike a dancing butterfly. It might appear fierce, but it did not pose much threat. Sun Er once again forced Hun Li back with a palm. Her body suddenly turned, and she clenched her hand. A golden flame turned into a fire whip that shot out from her sleeve. Space fluctuated the moment the golden fire whip shot out. A dark black chain that contained a dark murderous aura shot from empty space like a poisonous snake. It heavily collided with the fire whip. An ear-piercing sizzling sound erupted. He, you are indeed worthy of being someone who possesses the divine bloodline. Your senses are this sharp. Hun Ye's figure appeared at the end of the dark black chain. He coldly laughed as he widened his mouth. A large black dragon surged out. This dragon was accompanied by a sharp, deafening dragon roar. It tore through the air and ruthlessly charged toward Sun Er. If one were to observe the scene carefully, one might discover that this dark black dragon was formed by many souls. The sharp dragon roar was emitted from many miserable screeches. Dirty tricks. Sun Er's eyes became cold as she watched the dark black chain rushed over. She was just about to attack when an extremely ferocious wind was suddenly transmitted from behind her. Even without turning around, she was aware that Hun Li had attacked again. Even Sun Er ended up knitting her brows when faced with 2 8-star Dozun experts. Her toes pressed on the ground, and her body rushed into the air. After which, the seal formed by her hand changed. A dense golden flame suddenly surged from her body in all directions. It transformed into a 100-meter-large fire hand that reached for the enormous dark black dragon. Bang! The golden fire hand grabbed the dark black dragon. The frightening temperature turned the souls into nothing before their miserable screech could be emitted. The sharp wind from behind her arrived after she had shattered the black soul dragon. Her hand formed a seal with lightning-like speed before smashing it behind her without even turning her head. Bang! The two collided. A frightening wind swept over the sky like a storm. The rich energy fog within a 1,000-foot radius had become thinner as a result. The visibility within the fog had become much better. Groan. A muffled moan was emitted from Hun Li's throat when the wind swept away. His feet staggered back through empty air. That frightening and ferocious scar-filled face revealed a faint paleness on it. Although Hun Li was forced back, Sun Er's foot was shaken until she took half a step back. A slight numb feeling appeared within her hand. This Hun Li was clearly not a simple character. Otherwise, he would not have been able to force her back. Hun Ye, it looks like the two of you do not wish to leave the Jiyu realm alive. Sun Er clenched her hand. Her icy-cold eyes landed on Hun Ye as she coldly cried out. There is no need for Miss Sun Er to be worried, Hun Ye laughed in a dark voice. His eyes suddenly glanced down. Xiao Yang was seated below him. The Doqi fluctuation around him was becoming more intense. We won't be able to kill Sun Er within a short period of time. Looks like we can only kill Xiao Yang. After having experienced these exchanges, Hun Ye had gained an understanding of Sun Er's strength. He understood that even if he and Hun Li were to join hands, they could fight with Sun Er, but they would not be able to seriously injure or kill her. However, Xiao Yang was currently in a state where he was experiencing a breakthrough. If he were to successfully do so, they would end up with some trouble. Despite Xiao Yang only being a 6-star Dozun, Hun Ya, who had watched the battle between Xiao Yang and Jiu Yao back then, understood that Xiao Yang's fighting strength far exceeded his surface strength. Hun Li, go and kill Xiao Yang. I will stop her. Zun Er's expression finally changed when she heard Hun Ya's cry. Her lovely figure flashed as she swiftly rushed towards Xiao Yang. However, she had yet to get far when a whistling wind erupted behind her. Zun Er turned her head to see countless number of sharp black chains pouring toward her like a storm. Each of these chains possessed the strength to easily penetrate the defenses of an elite Dozun. When such a number of them had gathered together, even Zun Er could not act like she had seen nothing. Hun Ya, if you dare hurt him, this heavenly tomb shall be your final resting place. Zun Er could only turn her body when faced with Hun Ya's ferocious attack. A golden flame swept apart, and those chains were shattered amid some clang sounds. This woman, what powerful strength. If it was a one-on-one fight, I am really no match for her. Hun Ya's expression changed as he watched the dark black chains shatter in an instant. He turned his gaze, and a cold smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Hun Li had swiftly rushed to the large rock where Xiao Yang was training at this moment. Hun Li's actions were also discovered by Zun Er. A dense murderous aura surged from her eyes. Her sleeve shook and a golden long spear that contained an extremely frightening energy suddenly shot out. It ruthlessly shot at Hun Ya. However, Hun Ya was expressionless as he faced Zun Er's ferocious attack. It appeared as though he did not sense it. His fist, which was covered in a dense cold fog, smashed towards Xiao Yang's head without any hesitation. It was as though he wanted to take Xiao Yang's life even if he ended up being seriously injured by Zun Er. Even Zun Er's face had suddenly revealed a paleness when she saw this scene. A bone-chilling craziness erupted from deep within her eyes. When this craziness had surged from deep within Zun Er's eyes, Xiao Yang, who was seated on the large rock, suddenly opened his eyes. The corner of his mouth was lifted into a cold smile. His right hand slammed toward Hun Li, who was within close proximity, with lightning-like speed. Great Heaven Creation Palm. The moment the palm was thrown out, a dark black heart-chilling light sphere began to expand with lightning-like speed. At this moment, the eyes of the ferocious-looking Hun Li finally revealed an aghast expression. This video will end here.